Hare Krishna, Panchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyeva Titanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So welcome to our continuing study of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are in first canto, second chapter, and we're continuing over from last week from text 12. Because we read and discussed Prabhupada's purport. So what we're going to do today when we start is read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport, and then we'll go on as much as we can. So first I'll say this. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, yeah, Bhagavatam 1 to 12, you recall, Tatshradadana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pasyantyatmani Chatmani Bhaktya Shuddha Grihitaya. And gotta do this while I'm reading a book. Prabhupada's translation is the absolute truth is realized. That's 12, right? Well, Prabhupada's translation is yeah.
Is it different?
Yeah.
Okay.
The seriously this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's. Prabhupada's translation is okay. This
Yeah, it changed.
This is Vishwanath Chakravarti's Thakur.
No, that's Prabhupada.
What is this?
That's a different version of Prabhupada's.
Oh, different version of Prabhupada. Okay. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. So the translation by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, well, by Bhanu Swami, and he's following the purport of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service after hearing from the Guru, or Shuddha Grihitaya. He reads it that way. Well, he's saying his commentary. So this Jnana Vairagya, this group is always, so often put together, knowledge and detachment. So he's, and then Yukta, which is translated here, is well equipped. So his translation goes like this, his commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This verse describes the practice to realize that tattva. That tattva means the absolute truth. Vedanti tattva vidas from text 11. This verse describes the practice to realize that tattva, the sages, munayaha, that's in the plural, and then it means the gyanis, cultivating contemplation, the yogis, and the devotees. See that jnana, jnana of three forms by bhakti. So notice it's not just one, it's all three, but all three are realized by this whether it's contemplation, what the yogis discover, what the Gyanis discover, and what the devotees discover. So he's saying here that all three by bhakti. It's not just one. It's cumulative. Those who conceive of the Lord, those who conceive of jnana as Brahman, realize as Pashyanti, the jiva, the atmana, as the Lord, atmana atmani. Tattvam asi, you, jiva, or that, the Lord. That's how they think of it sometimes. You are God. Those who conceive of the Lord as Paramatma through meditation, see through meditation the Lord in the heart, Atmanam, in the heart, Atmani. Atmanam Atmani. Those who conceive of Bhagavan, see Bhagavan, Atmanam, in the mind, Atmani. So you see he's got these three different readings of Atmani. Those who conceive of Bhagavan, see Bhagavan, Atmanam, in the mind, Atmani, and also directly in front of them, because the word is Pashanti Atmani Cha, so that Cha is there. So they see him directly in front of them, the and, it means that, and taste the sweetness of the Lord with their very eyes. The sages realize their form of the Lord by bhakti, which is first heard of from the guru Shruta, the Shruta, and then practice, Grihitaya. So that Shruta Grihitaya is taken for him like that. The word bhaktiya is used with its conventional meaning, indicating hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan. The worshippers of Brahman and Paramatma must also perform bhakti directed to Bhagavan in order to perfect their own sadhanas. Jnana and Vairagya, mentioned in this verse, are the two sadhanas for the Gyanis and Yogis only. For the devotee, these two arise only from bhakti. So there's bhakti first, and then the other things develop from there. These two arise only from bhakti and indicate the loving nature of bhakti. Because he loves the Lord, the devotee, he strives to know the Lord and show distaste for everything else. So there's jnana and vairagya. He strives to know the Lord, that's jnana, and vairagya, a natural distaste for everything. It's not like you have to tear yourself away. You just lose interest in sense gratification. So he's saying these arise from bhakti and show the loving loving nature of bhakti, since separate cultivation of jnana and vairagya are forbidden in pure bhakti. And then he says, quotes from here, Tasman mad bhakti yuktasya yogino vai mad atmanaha jnanam nacha vairagyam praya shreyo bhavet iha. Therefore, for a devotee, this is 11:20:31, therefore, for a devotee engaged in my loving service, with mind fixed on me, the cultivation of knowledge and renunciation is generally not the means of achieving the highest perfection within this world. And then he kind of changes, takes a different tack at the end. Or, by mentioning jnana, vairagya, and bhakti, The verse can express the idea that the devotee can realize through bhakti all the three aspects of the Lord, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Some who have that particular faith, that particular faith, Tat Shraddhanana, develop the desire to realize all the three forms. Then by bhakti, they can see all the three forms. Thus, the goal of the sadhanas of jnana and yogi for realizing Brahman and Paramatman will be accomplished only by bhakti. So that's his take on that. So now we will go on from there. So now we go on to text 13. Ata pumbir dvija shrishta varnashrama vibhagashaha swanushtitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste division and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. So you can see here, ataha, therefore or so, by the human being, and then here's the addressing Dvija Shrestha, O best, that's in the plural, best among the twice born. He's addressing the audience there, O best among the twice born. It is concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve, the samsiddhi, that's the highest perfection, by discharging the duties, swanushtitasya, one's duty, swanushtita, in varna and ashram, whatever is done there. The highest perfection that you achieve by that, caste division and orders of life, is varna and ashram, is to haritoshanam, please the Supreme Lord. So let's go, we'll read Prabhupada's purport and then discuss it here. He says, human society all over the world is divided into 4 castes and 4 orders of life. Notice immediately he says all over the years. Oh, we thought that was Hinduism. Because it's natural, he says it's all over the world. It's not imposed upon society, it actually is there. The 4 castes are the intelligent caste, the martial caste, the productive caste, and the labor caste. These castes are classified in terms of one's work and qualification, not by birth. So here, this immediately you see this rejection of this. It's not janma. This is the Bhagavad Gita says guna and karma vibhagasaha. What one you belong to is by your qualification, your guna, and your karma, what you do, what you have the aptitude for. And Prabhupada called this Daivi Varnashram Dharma. There's been a confusion in our movement sometimes because people thought of Daivi Varnashrama Dharma as some kind of special Varnashram Dharma for devotees, divine Varnashram Dharma, but it means the Varnashram Dharma that was spoken by Krishna, that this is, it's guna and karma. uh, and not by birth. So they makes the point right here: one's work and qualification, not birth. Then again, there are four orders of life: the student life, the householder life, the retired, and the devotional life. This is the ashrams. And you live in different places, really. In the student, you live with the guru, so you're in a different place. That's an ashram. The householder is ashram. Retired, and then he says here, devotional life is as the last one. And doesn't just say renounce to sannyas, he just says the devotional life. In the best interest of human society, there must be such divisions of life. Otherwise, no social institution can grow in a healthy state. And in each and every one of the above-mentioned divisions of life, the aim must be to please the supreme authority of the personality of Godhead. In the original editions from this book from India, there was in boldface. This institutional function of human society is known as the system of varnashrama dharma, which is quite natural for the civilized life. The varnashrama institution is constructed to enable one to realize the absolute truth. It is not for artificial domination of one division over another. This is the criticism of the so-called caste system, and especially the hereditary caste system. Prabhupada traces this back to unqualified sons of brahmanas who were not qualified to be a brahmana, yet taking that position and then exploiting everybody else. That's how it came to be corrupted. It begins from the rot begins from the head down, and so there were unqualified brahmanas, and then they got a bad name. Anyway, when the aim of life, that is, realization of the absolute truth, is missed by too much attachment for indriya priti, or sense gratification. So many Indian girls are named Preeti. Just a sort of flag. For indriya priti, or sense gratification, I mean, just means that one is pretty or pleasing. Huh? As already discussed herein before, the institution of varnashrama is utilized by selfish men to pose an artificial predominance over the weaker section. In the Kali Yuga, or the age of quarrel, this artificial predominance is already current, but the saner section of the people know it well, that the divisions of caste and orders of life are meant for smooth social intercourse and high-thinking self-realization, not for any other purpose. So Prabhupada's analysis really begins with the brahmanas messing up, and then everything becomes out of whack. Here, the statement of Bhagavatam is that the highest perfection of the institution of the Varnashrama Dharma is to cooperate jointly for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Samsiddhi Haritoshanam, that's what it's for. And he mentions this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4:13. Bhagavad Gita. Oh, I don't have it up here. Yeah, Chatur Varnam Mayastrisham Guna Karma Vibhagasaha. This Prabhupada says this system was created by me of the four Varnas, according to Guna and Karma, the divisions of their qualities, their characteristics, and their work. See, Janma is not there. Prabhupada points out with this verse. Janma, it says, is not birth. The Guna and the Karma. And he then says, although I'm the creator of the system, I'm yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. So that's the Guna and Karma. And so when he says Daivi Varnashram Dharma, he means you're following this, the Varnashram Dharma spoken by Krishna, Guna Karma. That's what the Daivi part of the Varnashram Dharma is. Now we have a commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to this verse. And he points out that verse 1 to 8 has already stated that Varnashram duties, Dharma Swanustita, are wasted endeavor. Maybe we should get that verse up there.
1, 2, 8.
Yeah, 1, 2, 8. Just a couple of back.
Yeah.
Dharma Swanustita Pumsam Vishvaksena Kata Suya Utpariyat Yati Yadi Ratim Shrama Eva Kevalam. The occupational activities, Dharma, Swanustita, executed in terms of your own position of a person. Only useless labor, Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam. Hard work and nothing else. Useless labor, just useless, just work. And so Prabhupada, word for word, then translates it as useless labor, just work and nothing more. Unless they produce this attraction, rati, affection, for the personality of Godhead, Vishvaksena, one who's host, who goes everywhere, one of Krishna's name, that message of there. So that he says this here. Verse 1 to 8 has already stated that Varnashrama duties are wasted. We'll get it together sooner or later. A wasted endeavor, and even jnana and yoga, devoid of bhakti, are wasted endeavor. And now he quotes here from Bhagavatam 10:14 forward, for Shreya Shristim Bhaktim Udasyate Vibho Klishanti Ye Kevala Bodha Labdaye Tesham Maso Kleshava Eva Shishananyat Yata Stulab Tusha Bhagatinam. My dear Lord, and of course these are Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's. This is Bhanuswami's translation of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot give grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. Prabhupada has used this example a lot of just beating the empty husks of wheat. When you thresh the wheat, you beat it, and you separate the wheat from the chaff. And then again, 1.5, Bhagavatam 1.5.12, Naiskarmyam apyachuta bhava varjitam Vashobhate Gyanam Alam Niranjanam Punashasva Abhadram Ishvara Vacharpitam Karma Yad Apyakaranam. Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible, God. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the beginning and transient by nature if they are not utilized for devotional service of the Lord? These are Prabhupada's translations here, by the way, not Vishwanath Chakravarti, Bhanu Swami's translations from Vishwanath Chakravarti. And then, where are we now? Another quote? Okay. Pure habuman bhavato piyoginas tvadarpiteha nijyakarma labdaya vibhujya bhakchaiva katopanitaya prapedirenyo chutate gatim param. O Almighty Lord, in the past, many yogis in this world achieved the platform of devotional service by offering all their endeavors to you and faithfully carrying out their prescribed duties. Through such devotional service, perfected by the processes of hearing and chanting about you, they came to understand you, O Infallible One, and could easily surrender to you and achieve your supreme abode. That's 10.14.5. From this chapter, it has already been understood that only by pure bhakti, unmixed with karma, jnana, or yoga, the mind becomes satisfied. But there's more to this one here in my book.
I don't have one.
Okay, well, here's more of it.
Wait, oh wait, no, there's more.
Oh, there
It's
is
on the
more.
next
Okay,
page.
okay. Next page.
Sorry.
We'll get it together someday. A doubt arises. Oh, is there not some worry in giving up jnana and yoga? And in not doing nitya karma, that's your daily duties, nitya karma. Nitya doesn't mean eternal, it just means sometimes recurring every day also. And in not doing nitya karmas, is there not the calamity of great sin in omission of action and ending up in hell? This verse answers, although jnana and yoga have some attraction, they depend on getting their results by performance of bhakti. So that may be a controversial statement, but Prabhupada has said this also, that when people get anything from practicing jnana yoga or sangha yoga, it's because there's a tinge of bhakti. He used that phrase, a tinge of bhakti. And that's what really makes it work, and not the other stuff that they do. So he says that here. But bhakti gives its results without the assistance of jnana or yoga at all. Therefore, if one pleases the Lord by bhakti only, that is the perfection of dharma. The person who does not get, for the most part, perfection, even though performing all the rules and regulations of karma, attains perfection directly through bhakti, even though he does not perform the karmas. This is understood from the Lord's own words. And so here's a quotation from the 11th canto. chapter 20, 32 and 33. Yet karma be yat tapasa jnana vairagyas, excuse me, yet karma be yat tapasa jnana vairagyatas chayat yogena dhana dharmena shreyo bhir itarayar api sarvam mad bhakti yogena mad bhakto labatenjasa svarga pavargam maddama katanchit yadivanchati. Everything that can be achieved by fruitive activities, penance, knowledge, detachment, mystic yoga, charity, religious duties, and all of the means of perfecting life is easily achieved by my devotee through loving service to me. So that's the first verse. And the second one, if somehow or other my devotee desires promotion to heaven, liberation, or residence in my abode, he easily achieves such benedictions. Vishwanath Chakravarti says, thus the idea that the devotee incurs sin by not performing karmas is discarded. Question, if dharma is perfected by bhakti, will the performer of dharma still obtain the results of dharma? Yes. If one performs dharma with material desires, one will attain those desires. But if one performs dharma without material desires, one will not attain material results. Gopal Tapani Shuta, there's a Gopal Tapani Upanishad, he calls it Gopal Tapani Shuti, says, Bhaktir asya bhajanam tad iha mutropadi nairasyenaiva mushmin mana kalpanam etad eva cha naiskarmyam. The translation here is, bhakti is worship of the Lord, concentrating the mind on him, renouncing all material desires for enjoyment, upadi, in this world and the next. It destroys all karmas. This is the Gopal Tapani Upanishad 115. A lot of the Upanishads are in prose, you can't chant them like you can, like the Isha Upanishad, because the ones that, like this one, in prose. According to the following verse, going to be a Bhagavatam quote, since all dharmas are perfected by bhakti, the necessity of the devotees performing dharma is rejected. Oh yeah, I remember this one. Oh yeah, because it's the fourth canto, 4:13, 14. Yata toro muli nischechanena tripyanti tat skanda bujo pashaka prano parachacha charindriyanam tataiva sarva varharam achyutejya. As pouring water on the root of a tree energizes the trunk, branches, and twigs, and everything else. And as supplying food to the stomach enlivens the senses and limbs of the body, simply worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service automatically satisfies the demigods who are part of that Supreme Personality. So we've used that example a lot of times from Prabhupada, that if you serve Krishna, you satisfy everyone. So all the devas become satisfied. You're putting water on the roots and the whole trees, branches, twigs, everything becomes nourished. So, because a lot of things, sometimes you give up different things. to become a devotee or to practice devotional service. What about those things that you give up? Would I suffer some repercussions? He says, no. Everyone is satisfied. I mean, somebody may get mad at you, but not anybody that matters. The Lord himself says, this is a quotation, Bhagavatam 11:29, Tavat karmani kurvita na nirvidyeta yavata matkata shravanadau vashradha yavandajayate. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activity and has not awakened his taste for devotional service by Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, one has to act according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. And then 11:11:32, Ajnayaivam gunandoshan maya dishtan api swakhan dharman sanyajya yat sarvam mam bhajeta satuma. Having taken complete shelter at my lotus feet, however, a saintly person ultimately renounces such ordinary religious duties and worships me alone. Thus he is considered to be the best among all living entities. And in the Gita, the Lord says, we know this one, Sarva Dharman Parijajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Give up all dharma and just surrender to me. Based on these verses, the meaning of the verse Yata Toror Mula Nishechanena, pouring water on the root of the tree, that's the quoted that earlier. Based on these verses, the meaning of the verse Yata Toror Mula Nishechanena is as follows. Just as worship of the Lord takes the place of worshiping all the devatas, and satisfaction of the Lord is the perfection of the performance of varnashrama duties. When the Lord is satisfied with his worship, the goal of performing one's duties, including worship of the devatas, is automatically achieved. In the example, by watering the root of the tree, the watering of the branches and leaves takes place automatically. When the pure devotees of Bengal or other places perform a few karmas out of obligation because of the pressure from family traditions, this is actually not performance of karmas and does not give karmic result because they do not have faith in the worship of the devatas. So your mother-in-law says you have to do this puja, you've got to keep her happy, so you do it, but don't worry about it, you're not going to get a karmic reaction from it. Next, the Lord says, final quotation here, Ashradaya hutam dattam tapas taptam kritam chayat asad it yuchate parta na chatat precha no iha. Bhagavad Gita 17:28. O son of Prita, whatever is offered in the fire, whatever is given in charity, whatever is undertaken as austerity, but which is done without faith, is called asat, since it bears no result now or in the next life. I think that's the end of his purport, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. All right. So now we will go on. Srimad Bhagavatam 1-14. And this is a kind of conclusion. Tasmat, therefore, accordingly, tasmat, Tasmat ekena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Pati Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Diyeya Pujas Chanichada. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So here you see the word for devotees, sattvatam, sattvatam pati. Here pati could mean father, but is a protector here of the sattvata, the devotees. So this is the name of Krishna, Sattvatam Pati. Bhagavan Sattvatam Pati. Therefore, ekena manasa, with one pointed attention or fixed attention of mind, one should worship the Lord, who is the protector of the devotees. And this worship, because he is, he's to be heard, that is to be heard about. Kirtitavya is to be glorified. Diyeya, to be remembered or meditated on. And puja, to be worshipped. Nityada, all the time, constantly. So Prabhupada's purport here. If realization of the absolute truth is the ultimate aim of life, it must be carried out by all means. In any one of the above mentioned castes or orders of life, the four processes, namely glorifying, hearing, remembering, and worshiping, are general occupations. Without these principles of life, no one can exist. Activities of the living being involve engagements in these four different principles of life. Especially in modern society, all activities are more or less dependent on hearing and glorifying. Any man from any social status becomes a well-known man in human society within a very short time if he is simply glorified truly or falsely in the daily newspapers. You've noticed that. A well-known man. Sometimes political leaders of a particular party are also advertised by newspaper propaganda, and by such a method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. But such propaganda by false glorification of an unqualified person cannot bring about any good, either for the particular man or for the society. Boy, is that ever apropos, huh? There may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, but there are no permanent effects. Therefore, such activities are a waste of time. The actual object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything manifest. Everything manifest before us. We have broadly discussed this fact from the beginning of the Janmadasya shloka of this Bhagavatam. That's at the beginning. The tendency to glorify others or hear others must be turned to the real object of glorification, the Supreme Being, and that will bring happiness.
It's short.
Okay.
Yeah, it's short.
Okay. So this is a short commentary. His translation here. Therefore, this is Bhanu Swami's translation. Therefore, with mind dedicated only to bhakti, devoid of karma and jnana, one should constantly hear about, glorify, and meditate upon the Supreme Lord, the Master of the devotees. Sattvatamapati. And his short commentary. Because of this, one should worship the Supreme Lord with the mind devoid of the desire to perform karma and jnana. That's ekena manasa, with single-mindedness purpose. Okay, we got into 14.
Okay, so thank you all for joining us, and we're going to turn it over now for questions, comments, any reflections from any of the verses that we've covered or any of the commentaries that we've covered. You are welcome to raise your hand or just unmute yourself. It's a pretty friendly group here. And you're also welcome to type your comment or question into the chat box if that's more your style. And our trusty Vijay Krishna Prabhu has the first question. Go ahead, Prabhu, and unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna.
Hello.
Shraddha Devi Mataji, can you hear me?
Of course, yes, you are
Thank
clear.
you, thank you, thank you for your service. Maharaj, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. We're in the same room, actually. Same speaker.
Okay, so my question is related to the very end of the translation to the last verse you just presented to us. The protector of the devotees.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find it?
Yeah, Sattvatamapati.
So my question is the following. I often hear that devotion may be executed under the influence of ignorance, passion, or goodness. And better than that, we have the pure devotees. So my question is, this expression, protector of the devotees, is referring to which kind of devotees? The ignorant ones, the passionate ones, the good ones, or the pure ones?
My understanding of this is that, let's put it this way. Krishna does something, if there's any tinge of trying to become better or trying to be a better devotee or improve worship, he takes it as very great, even if it's very small. So if there's some sincerity of purpose, even though a devotee is not very advanced and has a lot of troubles and difficulties and has ups and downs, if there's some sincerity in the heart of it, still trying to advance in devotional service, then Krishna will care for him and help him to make advancement. That's my understanding.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next to Kendra Prabhu, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna. First, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me.
I can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Jai.
Yes.
Thanks for the class,
That's
Gurudev.
about everybody else.
I had a question based on the first verse you spoke on today. This starts with the Bhanu Swami's translation of the 1-12 commentary. In there, he says that this is the second paragraph of that commentary. He says that for the devotee, these two, in other words, jnana and vairagya, arise only from bhakti and indicate the loving nature of bhakti. And then he says, since separate cultivation of jnana and vairagya are forbidden in pure bhakti. And when I heard that, it reminded me of a purport that Prabhupada gives in 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And the verse is, faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. And in the purport, he says that this faith is attained by the discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. And then he says, over and above this, one should control the senses. So I was curious to hear from you, your take on this, because it could be taken that they're saying two different things, that in the practice of pure bhakti, separate cultivation of vairagya is forbidden. And then Prabhupada says, over and above this, meaning chanting Hare Krishna and devotional service, one should control the senses.
Well, I think the key word to the first is separate cultivation.
Mm-hmm.
When you do it for its own sake.
Mm.
For example, if you're practicing bhakti, but you spend a lot of time lifting weights, that's an austerity and cultivation of some kind of austerity, you know. But it's not necessarily germane to your practice of bhakti. If it has something to do with helping with your bhakti, okay, but, you know. But so I was something I like when it's just a separate thing that you want to do. But if any of these things can be used in devotional service or good for devotional service, then sure, they're fine.
Right. Right. So in other words, sense control, insofar as it directly enhances one's devotional practice, is not in the category of forbidden as Vishwanath Chakravarti would categorize it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Charachandra Prabhu on Facebook has this question. He says, I love the progression of this thread of verses. Somehow, however, it has become popular for aspiring devotees to give up varnashrama before they have successfully become Krishna conscious. Any ideas on how to deal with this?
Nope. Depends on the particular case. I cannot say I don't think there's one formula for everybody. One should actually just focus on people's spiritual advancement and don't worry so much about the other things of that may help. You know, I mean, the idea when you begin devotional service, first of all, you should accept the things that are favorable. And that should be your criterion. Whatever is favorable for devotional service, I don't reject it, I accept it, I use it. And the things that are unfavorable, I avoid it. And you have to be a little honest with yourself. But that's how we that's how we proceed. Really, I think to be successful in Krishna consciousness, one really has to have that being the main thing. It's just devotion is not one thing among many that you do. For a lot of people, you know, they do their lives and their religion is something that they do on Sunday or one little part of their life and has nothing else to do with anything else. No, there shouldn't be any difference between your religion and your life. And that's the idea of Dharma anyway. So that really should, then you accept the things that are favorable. As soon as your spiritual advancement falls down among one thing among many, you're going to run into trouble. It doesn't mean that you won't do other things, but the first thing is spiritual advancement, and everything else that you do should be favorable for that spiritual advancement. And if you proceed that somehow you find out also later on that things you thought you needed, you didn't need, and things you thought you wouldn't get, Krishna gives you if it's favorable for your spiritual advancement. He won't do you anything that's going to stop you. So sometimes you may want something bad for you, and he'll screw up your plans terribly. Later, you'll thank him. When it happens, you can be a little miffed.
Bhakti and Paula has a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the
Hare
lecture.
Krishna.
Yeah, I was wondering, since Varnashram Dharma is stated to be universal, can we kind of take it to mean that, like, if people have a scholarly inclination, or if they're inclined to be teachers, that we can kind of fit them into the Brahman box, and if they're politicians or leaders, that they more or less fit in the Vaishya, the Kshatriya box, and so on, even in Western society? Or should we be careful of that? Or is everything messed up anyway because of Kali Yuga? Can you please
I
comment?
think everything is messed up anyway. That's a problem because you see that the people who are in these positions and should be performing them correctly are very rarely actually doing it. Once Prabhupada started a political party, it was there for a little while, the In God We Trust Party for Purified Leaders. And since it was just after the reign of Nixon, the idea that leaders somehow should be, a little sattvic had some appeal for people. And so that was our platform, that the leaders should be following these four principles. And we got some, some attention from it, but you could not actually, the reason we had to stop the whole thing was basically because as a religious organization, you can't really directly engage in politics because you're tax exempt. You'd lose your tax exemption and all that stuff like that. So we didn't do it. And and really the Brahmanas should not be politicians, but they should give guidance to the politicians. That's what should happen. But yeah, it's not happening. We have no. When Prabhupada was asked by the reporter, "Why have you come to the West?" He said, "I've come to give you a brain." He said. So we still need that brain functioning.
As a follow-up to that, Srila Prabhupada said that, like, part of his mission was unfulfilled, and that was establishing Varnashram Dharma. How do you see this implemented? In what form? Like, because it's been taken to be the very traditional form.
Well, he wanted to have part of the Varnashram system was to actually have Vaishyas who protect the cows, and it sounds very old-fashioned what Prabhupada wanted, but it's local self-sufficiency, which would be really great if you see what we're doing with the industrial civilization. Prabhupada warned about this a long time ago. So his idea was to have local self-sufficiency and based on the land and the cows. And the Gita Nagari and other farm projects were meant to do that. Very few devotees could slow down enough to do it. But Actually, you're going to find out that people will do it because they have no choice. We're going to get very close to the edge where people will finally discover they really have no choice. But so far, the people who've made money on the present way of doing things are still not ready to switch over to something else, because there's no profit in it. Just where I live in the Hudson Valley, I was just reading a whole thing about how the people who are trying to clean up the Hudson River still can't get it done because of, General Electric and all these people, they dump so much pollution in there, and it's still not happening. Just the simple things like clean water, it's like so hard to get. And food that's not contaminated with all kinds of artificial stuff. But I think more people think about it. And Prabhupada wanted that all living beings should have civil rights. He said commenting on the duty of a king is to protect the praja, the population. And he said that means everyone, all the living beings are to be protected. And I realized that means animals have civil rights. And even a forest could have civil rights. People are discovering how much trees communicate with each other and get it together and have a social life, even through their roots and all these stuff like that, So we're in that sense, we're way ahead of everybody else. So I think that the formula is there, and for ourselves, we should just try to increase our own Krishna consciousness and help those around us do it. And if everybody just does like that, gradually, Krishna will be happy, and things will start to happen. That's I've seen these things happening already. A lot of the things that we talked about early on should be done. It used to be, for example, we say no intoxication. It used to be when you get in an airplane, everybody would start light a cigarette. It was so hard just to be in an airplane because they're lighting the cigarettes all the time, Now they don't do that. They can't, So, and people thought we were like such Puritans and so, against human enjoyment. But guess what? So gradually it'll be appreciated more and more, I think, and will turn out to be quite practical in many ways. But right now, the present system, there's too many people raking in money from this thing, and they don't want to do what's necessary, and that's a problem. So but I think we're gonna end up coming quite close to the edge of things here, emergency situation, when they, and just like being a vegetarian, when I was a new devotee, I mean, my mother thought I was gonna die. She was a registered nurse, she thought I was gonna die. And she said, well, if you don't eat meat, at least feed it to the baby. Yeah. My children. And then, 10 years later, says, oh, your diet is so healthy. So things are changing. Anything else there?
Yeah, we have a Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu on Facebook asks, he says, regarding Varnashrama Dharma, how do we understand great brahmanas who sometimes have rejected the idea of surrender to Krishna? In this regard, I find Shukracharya to be very confusing. For example, Lord Krishna praises him as exemplary in the 10th chapter of Gita. It is accepted that by pleasing him, the Asuras gain power. Yet at the same time, he advised against Bali's surrender.
Well, it seems like the Asuras had their brahmanas too. Huh? I mean, in the position of being an advisor to people in a brain, they have it. You know, you could say that Karl Marx was a brahmana. I mean, the people do those kinds of functions, and you saw that the demons also had their guys. You know, who taught them how to be really good demons. So, these functions of the you know the four varnas tend to be there because they're natural, and so you always have, you know, even in the a demonic government, you have your think tanks and you have your people who figure out stuff, and you know, your Bill Gates, who's either a demon or not. According to anyway, so sometimes those functions are there, but the trouble is those who are actually thinkers are still not pure. It really starts with being the idea of a devotee brahmana is they are able to take direction from Supersoul and follow that authority. And that's really what the brahmana is supposed to do. But everybody's got their think tanks, you know, and their intelligentsia, yeah, the treason of the clerks. A French solution. Anyway, the world's a terrible place right now.
Just a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up for today. I see that Shakti has a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, Krishna. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I stumbled upon a site where, well, it was like on Facebook, and then I clicked it, and then it said that it was about the moon landing. Prabhupada said that the moon is further than the sun, and then I was like, and then I got like a bit like, really, and then I googled it, and then it turns out like the moon is like higher than like the earth, you know, like the disk thing, and it's higher. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but I hope you know what I mean.
No.
Oh,
Moon is further than the sun.
but
Yeah, well, Prabhupada said moon is further than the sun. Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
well, how is it further than the sun? Can you like explain it?
Nope. Basically, I can't. I haven't thought about this thing for a long time now, but I have Prabhupada was trying to give us reasons why. I even forgot how the moon is further than the sun, where that actually, you know, fits in with the Bhagavatam vision of things. So I'm a little unsure of that right now. I haven't got my head into that. I spent a lot of time thinking about that stuff, but I don't remember anymore. But Prabhupada said they didn't go to the moon. He said several things. One thing, he was just trying to give reasons why they didn't, because the moon is described as a heavenly planet. And he also said they may have gone there, but they didn't enter into the atmosphere. Because actually, when they went to wherever they went, they remained with a spacesuit on, breathing earth air and eating earth food, and they didn't have the proper bodies. So as far as our conception of the universe, and we are putting this, by the way, in the planet, the Vedic planetarium. We're taking it and making it right up front about the whole thing. But the general thing is there are 330 million devas all over the place. And those devas control our senses. You can't blink an eye, you can't see anything, hear anything. We're wired in to the universe. And there's on and off switches to our ability to see and act in the world are also controlled by the devas. You see things in the Bhagavatam. I haven't seen a deva. It says that when Maharaj, I think it was Prithu, performed sacrifice, even ordinary people could see the gods. You know, you can't, they're there, but you don't have the qualification to see them. The switches haven't been turned on for you to notice them. So we have to understand that our four regulative principles are not simply moral principles, they're principles of knowledge. And by following them and practicing them, you will begin to understand what this world is like. We understand Krishna, and then we understand Krishna's energy, and that Krishna's energy is included within Krishna. Krishna doesn't exclude the world, he includes it. This is our Achincha Beda Beda Tattva. Nothing is different from Krishna, yet Krishna is different from everything. So for all of us, if we want to understand how the world is and see how the world is for our senses, we have to have the right eyes. We have to have the right perception. And that starts to develop by following the regulative principles, by chanting Hare Krishna, and you can start to see how this world is actually very, very different from what people think it is like. But right now we can't see it because of our contaminated nature. So we should think of this process of becoming able to see, because everything is controlled by devas. The whole world, I think of devas as the nervous system of the universe, of which we're part of. And we will start to begin to see how it is actually working, because the switches to our sense perception, I mean, we don't control the switches, by the way. Sometimes you can see, sometimes you can't see. It's not under our control. But when Krishna wants you to see something, he will show it. Prabhupada once gave a lecture. It was set up for him to give a lecture early on at a church in Boston. Devotees advertised it like crazy, and use this forum for this church, and to rent the whole church place out for this lecture. They sent out pamphlets all through Boston area and stuff like that. And when the actual time came, Prabhupada was there, devotees were there, and scattered out in the church were a few people, many of whom were just street people who were in for the get warm and stuff like that. And Prabhupada then gave a brilliant talk, according to the devotees who were there, on the re-spiritualization of matter. That's what his talk was about. And someone said afterwards, Prabhupada, you gave such a wonderful talk about the re-spiritualization of matter. That was amazing. And why did you do that? Because there was nobody here to hear or understand it. And he said, "Oh, you didn't see Narada Muni?" That's what he said. So I may think that Prabhupada saw Narada Muni, and so he was talking to him. So sometimes you can see and sometimes you can't see. So as we develop in Krishna consciousness, it opens up to living in a world that's quite different from the one that we can see with our gross senses.
Whoa, so Prabhupada was able to see Narada Muni?
What did she say?
Prabhupada was able to see Narada Muni.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jayadutta
God.
Maharaj, would you like to add anything to that response?
Yeah, I mean, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu really covered the important points. Just to the cosmology of it, the moon comes first vertically. If you're going up, first there's the moon, then there's the sun, so on.
Yeah.
But then you have to take into account the horizontal measure also. Horizontally, the sun is in the universe. So then if you measure diagonally, yes, then the sun winds up being farther away. Vertically,
see.
then the moon is closer.
Thank you very much. That was helpful.
This is if it can. Mhm.
Oops, your internet's cutting out a little bit, Maharaj.
Then there's nothing else to be said.
Okay. Just making sure we didn't cut you off. Thank you very much. Okay. I think that is it for today. Thank you all very much for joining us, and special obeisances and gratitude to Jayadutta Maharaj for joining. Any final remarks?
I kept looking at this picture, Jayadvaita Mantra, and I see he hasn't moved all this time, but
There he is.
Thank you all very much. We'll see you next time. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. There he is. He's moving now.